How is everyone tonight?
Pardon me. Well, I just picked up Bammy's ashes today from the vet.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, so it was a tough day. And her final necropsy report came in, and she died of protein losing enteropathy, which is one of the two awful genetic diseases in our breed. So, and we have a test for PLN, the nephropathy version, which she was the very first generation as a 3-month-old pup to get the cheek swab, and both her DNA and the two successive generations of her descendants all have their DNA at University of Pennsylvania Vet School, which we're going to make use of. But while there is a PLN test, there is no PLE test. It is currently being worked on, and we're funding it as the National Breed Club, and our health endowment is cost sharing. And so, in fact, I just talked with the chair of the endowment today, we talked about how we want to use Bammy and her litter, and then the grandchildren,
Right.
the grandpups,
Really study how it might
for
come
a
down.
real familial study, exactly, because we know we have an affected dog.
Yeah.
And we are sure that the breed is undoubtedly riddled with it because we can't test for it. So that is another wrinkle to MAAP, is that if your dogs are, and every purebred dog, every dog breed has their
ripples,
then that needs to be in the MAP plan too, to test for it, and to do the annual veterinary visits to make sure that everything with the labs is a-okay.
Oh God, Connie, I'm sending my hugs and love to you.
Thank you. It's
awful. It's awful. It's really, really awful. So let's start from the beginning. I'm Deborah Hamilton of the Hamilton Law and Mediation law firm that helps people resolve conflicts over animals, but also I run this wonderful MAAP community every Wednesday night at 6:30 to help pet owners have a collaboration, a camaraderie, and also plan for the care of their pets long and short term. Connie has been here several months, almost years, with us, because we really find it to be wonderful to have people we can speak to about the plans we're making for our pets, because there are so many plans to make that you might not think of everything. And as Connie just pointed out, if you have a purebred dog, know the genetic predispositions for issues in the breed. Have your dog tested if you can. If you have a mixed breed, say you have a Labradoodle, or you have a Golden Doodle, or I like, the Irish Doodles,
or a Roodle, Wheaten Doodle mix.
Right, exactly. Whatever mix you have, if you get the DNA test, make sure you read up on the breeds that are within their DNA, because your dog, although it is a mixed breed, may have some of the genetic predispositions that their forefathers and mothers had. So we all need to know. I know that the breed clubs spend tens of thousands of dollars with AKC, Canine Health Foundation, and various vet schools looking for cures that not only help the purebred dog, but help the mixed breed dog that's carrying the purebred dog's blood. So we're all working together, rowing the boat in the same direction. So if you have a rescue or you have a purebred, it is something you really want to do. We lost Sharon. I guess she maybe was disconnected or didn't like what I was saying and so left. But in any event, I'm glad everyone is here. I'm going to check in with everyone. I know that Sally brought Athena to the vet and she got a clean bill of health. Her ears are not infected for the first time. Yay. And her skin is clearing up. So we're thrilled. I must say that I did not get as great information. Well, I did, because both of my kids were good. Junie's prostate's a little enlarged, but not bad. He's only 4 and he's a wild man, so who knows. But Roxy, who weighed in last year at 62 pounds, weighed in this year at 74. So she and I are carrying the same COVID pounds, and we're going to try to get them off together. We walk 5 miles a day. It seems to have absolutely no effect. So both of us are going to work on our extra 12 pounds we have gained during COVID. And so I'm going to check in. Connie, we're all sending you our love because,
Oh, thank you.
Mother's Day came and I was just out on my walk with the kids and I said, yeah, poor Bammy is not there anymore. And her daughter and her grandson were probably missing her as well as Connie on Mother's Day.
Terribly.
Yep.
Terribly. But speaking of COVID weight, I haven't fortunately gained COVID weight, but Patsy has. So now that the weather is lovely, all of us are getting out. And now that I'm fully vaccinated, we're getting out and we are walking. Miss Patsy is asleep at my feet. She doesn't realize what's in store for her, but we're going to get her back on track.
Well, there's Sally. And I have to tell you that I just went out and bought frozen string beans, which is the best thing in the universe for dog weight loss. I just wish I could have someone feed me just a certain amount of food with string beans, and then I would lose weight as easily as Roxy's going to lose weight. It would just be nice if there was somebody who would do that for me. I have to do it for me, and I'm really bad at staying honest. So that's another whole story. So Susan, how's everything with you and Maggie? Everything going well? Find a trainer yet or not yet?
Well, not really, no. I was kind of waiting for you to get back to me because you said you were going to look into a behaviorist for me.
Oh my goodness. I make a note. I will
Yeah.
do that. I will do that this afternoon. My apologies. You're absolutely right. Behaviorist. Because I'll send you the name of the behaviorist I know in New Mexico, and maybe he'll be able to. And there's also, the animal behaviorist from PreventVet might know as well. Her contact information is on the Why Do Pets Matter podcast. Her name is Kathy Madsen. And if
Okay.
Rose is quick like a bunny, she might be able to put some of the information up in the chat so that I can't forget again. But I will send you Kathy Madsen.
You want me to put something in the chat, you said?
No, Rose is going to put something in the chat if she can find the podcast notes for
Okay,
Kathy Madsen's podcast. Because if you
that would be
go
great.
listen to the Why Do Pets Matter podcast, you can hear
Yeah,
it. So everything else good with Maggie? Other than
yeah.
that
She's
naughty?
good, but her behavior is like pushing me to the edge. I mean, I have my moments where I really think about giving her back to the breeder. And I really hope not to have to do that.
How old is she now, Susan?
Well, she'll be 2 this August.
Hmm.
And, she's put on, talking about weight. I mean, every time there's food, she's right there. She's like a rock now. Can
Yeah.
hardly pick her up. She's just a little tiny thing. And so other than her behavior, I think she's incredibly healthy and, and a little bit overweight, but, I'm very interested in what you were talking about with the genetic weaknesses. And I hope to learn more about that with the Cotons because that's something I am very interested in. But anyway, other than the behavior, she's, the problem is she gets everybody in the house upset with her behavior because she overreacts to everything. If I get off the sofa, whatever I'm doing. So she kind of sets everybody on edge sometimes with her barking. And I think she's just restless and bored, to some extent. And I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, the link to the podcast is in the chat, so you can copy that and find Kathy Madsen's contact information there. I'll also send you the behaviorist in New Mexico. It is all about, and Connie and Sally will bear this out as well, it's all about keeping their brains stimulated because if they're bored, they get into mischief and become troublemakers. I can attest to that because Junie, when he was in North Carolina, didn't do one thing wrong because he was exhausted every single day, and exhaustion's a good thing. But you really do need, and I have to say, so I have a tale of 2 cities here. I have a tale of what happens when you believe everything's going to work out correctly and it doesn't. But before I go into that, I know I paraphrased Sally's day, but I know that she took Athena to the vet and everything came out great. In fact, her ears are clean and she's a good girl, but she was not happy about visiting her other mother, I have to say. She wanted out in like a nanosecond.
Oh, she's sound asleep now. She's walked another 2 miles and had dinner. And so life is good. She's dreaming of you and being home with Roxy. And so life is good.
Oh yeah, she was not happy. She was happy being home with Roxy. She thought seeing Roxy was great. Seeing Junie, not so much. So Susan, talk about a dog with no manners. You know, he saw a new female dog and he was just rude and just rude. I'll just leave it at that. He was rude. So he was summarily disciplined, not roughly, but he definitely was told that that was inappropriate guest treatment. Let's put it that way. So I wanted to talk to all of you about things that are really important to us that we don't ever think about. What happens if we move, right? And so, you know, I'm moving. And so I'm in this process of trying to find veterinarians. And I actually got the name of a veterinarian from my neighbor who she loves. But the other piece is that how do you transfer your records? And how many years do you go back? And what kind of records do you want? Do you want the paper records or the electronic records? I happen to have a vet who pretty much has paper records, and I don't know that they're ever put into electronic. So that means that I'm going to have copies of records that are going to have to then be given to the new vet. And so this is something we might consider. There's a great podcast by Mark. He's Mark Alcott on Why Do Pets Matter? And he's starting a program where your veterinarian can put your vet records on your phone. It is Vet Vitus, and he just has put all this information at your fingertips. Many vets have taken him up on it. You can ask your vet if they've taken him up on it. But that way, if you're away from home, all of your records are with you. He said some vets are pushing back from doing that because they're afraid it makes it easier for their clients to leave. However, I would be thrilled if I had my records on my phone so that I could bring it to a new vet. True, I'm leaving, but I'm not leaving for dissatisfaction. I'm leaving because the drive would be 10 hours long to go see the vet. And that's a little bit much for me, especially in an emergency. So I just want everyone to think about that and check with their vets and see how, you know, you can get a copy of your vet records and keep them in your file, because you're going to want that for addressing the needs of your pet, especially now. Connie has dogs that may or may not have this Wheaton issue. And so she's probably going to have them tested, and she's probably going to want to let people know this is something you're really going to need to look for. God forbid something happened to me and I want to be proactive about it, and they're part of this study. So that's a part of the information you want to share. It's amazing to me. I spoke to a guy, Tom Van Winkle, who's a good friend of Kieran, our friend with Leo, the one-eyed, and he's starting this whole program, and he really is working with rescues and shelters and purebred dog people to get the message out about responsible ownership. He's working closely with Colin. So I might ask him to come and have a conversation with us one Wednesday night, because he was really interesting. And I'm going to speak to him again, and he'll probably do a podcast so you can listen to it there.
Let me bring up an issue with having all your digitized vet records on your phone. First of all, I am very fortunate in that my vets all went, there are 4 vets in the practice, and they all went digital quite a few years ago. So that is totally cool. And anytime I ask for records, boom, you know, they're either sent to me, or, for instance, in the case of this referral, vet down in Orange County, bless you.
Thank you. Sorry.
It is spring. At any rate, you know, they can just immediately shoot all the records, including any x-rays or ultrasounds or whatever else is sitting, you know, in the patient file. But the other thing I was thinking of when you were speaking about this, Deborah, is for those of us who show and trial our dogs, and we are on the road.
Yes, we are.
I mean, I'm taking young Mr. Casey and his mom as a passenger up to Northern California in July for the big Northern California Terrier Association Specialty in the Kennel Club of Sacramento shows. And I'm going to be 7 hours away from home. And if I have to use the show vet there, God forbid, but if I do, all of Casey's records can be with me, or Patsy's. So that is a fabulous idea.
It is absolutely imperative. If you're traveling with your pet, getting the health certificate, which is what everybody needs, especially if you're going out of state. I mean, Connie's going to be in the same state, so she doesn't necessarily need a health certificate for her dogs to travel 7 hours, which is what it takes to get to Sacramento, maybe more. I might be driving very fast in 7 hours, but it's the same state, so usually you don't need a new health certificate. But if Connie was going to Las Vegas or to Texas or to Oklahoma, which is probably the same amount of time away, 7 hours going, to the left.
I can get to Arizona quicker than I can get to either the Bay Area or Sacramento. That is no joke.
Right. No, it isn't. You get the Las Vegas. So, but if you're leaving your state, you need a health certificate at the very least. But as Connie and I have just pointed out, you really do need some of the records, the shot records and things like that, that are going to make sure that you know what your dogs, I mean, usually health certificates do have the shot records on them, but some vets just give you a health record that I've checked him and he's healthy, which doesn't necessarily pass muster, but it's, better than having nothing. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about was, okay, so I went to Florida. I flew to Florida this weekend to see my sons for Mother's Day because I haven't seen them, and I called them up. And I will tell you the funniest part was I texted them and said, listen, I'm thinking of coming down to Florida to spend time with you over Mother's Day. What do you guys think? And so nobody answered for 2 hours.
Was that the answer?
Well, my husband turned to me and he said, I guess you have your answer. And I said, no, I'm going to hope that both of them have put their phones in a lockbox and, gone to meditate, which of course never would have happened. But in any event, they both said that they were not with their phones for 2 hours. And yes, of course, and come on down. So my son, Drew, picked me up. My son, Thomas, drove me back to the airport, and it was a lovely weekend. But the reason I'm telling you this story is my husband, Jim, had left for Las Vegas the Tuesday before Mother's Day. Now, I was here with my dogs, and I, of course, set up a whole, elaborate care system for the overlap of my leaving Saturday at 6 a.m. and Jim's coming home on Saturday at noon. So that was a 6-hour period, no big deal. Carolina, my caregiver for my pets, was coming to stay with the dogs. Everything was wonderful. And then Jim's plane, when he got there to the airport at noontime Eastern time, 9 a.m. California time or Nevada time, didn't have a part. And it didn't have a part until 6 p.m. Pacific time.
It's 9 p.m. your time.
Yes. And so remember, when we went through the MAAP program, it's, make a plan, address the needs of your pet, appoint caregivers, and publish. So when we got into COVID, we also talked about how do you keep in touch in the event something goes wrong and you need somebody really close by. So, of course, I had 3 neighbors' telephone numbers, and I said to them, do me a favor, just check in with the dogs. So the neighbor across the street who just lost their beagle were thrilled to take care of the hoodlums. And then the neighbor next door, who's always wanted an Irish setter, was thrilled to check in on the hoodlums. And then my girlfriend, Francesca, across the way was also thrilled to take care of so I had everybody come every hour to make sure they were fine. And they were sleeping. And when Jim got home, he goes, they didn't even care. And I said, yes, because they were being taken care of by the neighborhood and they were wonderful. But this is why those 8 Ds, thank you, Connie, are so important. I often gloss over delay because you know what? We don't get delayed. Everything works out fine. We never get stuck in traffic. We never have a flat tire. Our car doesn't blow up. Our plane doesn't have a part. That never happens to any of us, right? Never. So please take it seriously that when you're writing your MAAP plan, you really need to address all of the Ds. Again, divorce, delay, dispute, not dispute. Well, it could be a dispute because that's divorce, but disease, dementia, disaster, deployment, and then there's 2 others that I never can remember, but they're there, and I will write them down in the block. But it really is death. I forgot death. We all plan for death, right? But nobody ever plans for things that are like not death. So it really is very important for everyone to consider when you're taking off and you think everything's going to work out really, really well. Just make sure that you have that, ripcord that falls from the ceiling to give you oxygen when you're not able to get home to get to your pets. It's really, really important to do that. And it's important to have that information right there in the event something happened. So I wanted to share that with you because I wanted you to know that I'm as human as everyone else, that I presume things are going to work out, and they don't. I might have been a little curt with my husband about the fact that he didn't get home in time. He was not flying the plane, I might add, neither was my son Thomas. So I could not blame anyone for it. But I want everyone who's listening to this podcast to understand that it really is important to make other plans while you're presuming that everything's going to work out really wonderfully. I don't know if any of you've ever had that happen to you, where you've made plans and then all of a sudden. So could you tell us about it, Sally?
Well, same thing actually, Deborah, with me. Gordon, my husband, travels in Asia, and I had a dog sitter. I went up to Massachusetts, left Connecticut, and Gordon's driver brought him home. And he called me and he said, the lights are all out in the house. I said, no, the dog sitter was there. She's leaving the lights on. She fed the dogs. Everything's fine. He goes, the lights are all out. I said, well, go in, open the door, see what's going on. The dog sitter had the wrong date. She goes, oh, was I supposed to come today all day? I go, yes. She goes, I have it as tomorrow. So the dogs had been locked in the house since I left first thing in the morning to drive to Massachusetts. So, things get confused, or and misinterpreted. So you have to follow up yourself. Don't assume it'll be perfect. Follow up and just reconfirm.
That's right. Absolutely. Connie.
Well, being a private pilot, having grown up as an American Airlines brat and spending 3 decades in the aerospace industry as a road warrior all over the United States, where the weather sucks, unlike Southern California, weather is the ultimate delay factor, not aircraft parks, weather. And I cannot tell you, I used to travel, being on the F/A-18 program, and I was at Northrop Grumman. Our principal partner was Boeing. Boeing is in St. Louis. I grew up in Tornado Alley on the other side of Missouri, the Kansas side of Kansas City. I know about tornadoes.
Yeah.
I have sat at the Admirals Club at Lambert Field in St. Louis for up to 8 hours waiting to get on a westbound flight home to LAX. Watching the funnel clouds coming down from the sky and people saying, get down to the tornado shelter. I travel back to Washington, D.C. all the time. Boston, Massachusetts, GE Aero engines, awful weather,
Hurricanes,
snow, rain, hurricanes, you name it. And your plane can be outright canceled and you've got to go back to the hotel. So you cannot control the elements. The climate crisis is only making things worse. And then you have little things like the cyber hacking of the Colonial Pipeline the past few days, and millions of flights were canceled because they couldn't get aviation fuel. They couldn't get JP8 in the engines.
Yeah, Georgia, Atlanta's field couldn't get anything. Yep.
Yeah, the whole Southeast, and Atlanta is a monstrous hub. So, and that can impact flights that are connecting out on this coast.
So you left for Mother's Day, and then it was hacked, and you couldn't get home from California because you didn't have any gas to get home. Or if you were in Georgia visiting your mother, and then you wanted to get back to California, guess what? No gas.
Right. So absolutely. I mean, flight delays are some of the worst.
Yep. And any delay, really. I mean, flight delays are the ones we're most used to, but we here in New York and you in LA can get on the highway and it could take you 5 minutes or it could take you 5 days to get from point A to point B.
Oh yeah. Especially on holidays.
Yeah. Yeah, Thanksgiving going over the Throgs Neck Bridge. I used to leave at 10 in the morning to get to dinner at 2. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous, but that's where my family lived. I had to go over the bridge.
Right.
So Susan, do you have any delay issues that you've ever experienced?
I have, and but not with my dog here. And the thing I would worry about if I had my neighbors pop in, she'd probably attack them. Because she's a very much of a guard dog, and so I'm a little surprised it went so smoothly for you. Did your neighbors have keys to your house, or?
Well, I have one of those garage with a pad on it.
Okay.
And I never, so everybody can come to my house and rob it. I never lock the door from the garage into the house and P.S. we also, I left the door in the backyard open because that's where the dogs went in and out, and all of a sudden Roxy now is a big barker. I know you find that hard to believe, Sally, but she's a huge barker. There's something out in the back that I can't seem to figure. And P.S. there is a bunny in the backyard of one of the neighbors that Junie saw, and they only come out, I don't know about you guys, but for me, bunnies only come out about between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. So if I walk the dogs between 5 and 7, the bunnies are out. And Junie is a heroic bunny hunter. And so he
dog. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I know, he's a bunny dog. So he screams at the top of his lungs as if he's being gutted by a dull knife, and neighbors come out and stand on their porches and watch me try to control my dog who's screaming at the top of his lungs. And they all say, but he's always so quiet. And I go, yes, but you have a bunny living under your deck. It's not a good thing for me. It's not a good look for me when I'm trying to control my dog. But Susan, I'm going to really make sure that you get in touch with Kathy and with Dave Nickel, or I think it's Greg Nickel is the behaviorist because her inability to allow someone in the house is going to affect you if, God forbid, anything happens. Your dogs really, they really do have to let people in the house. I'll
we
tell you.
We do have visitors come in, and she usually is okay with that because we're here with those people.
But if, God forbid, something happened and you needed to send someone in to care for her, you would have to desensitize her to at least a few people, if not everyone. So that is a key element. I mean, all of our dogs are watchdogs, and that's great. However, I will tell you, as an attorney, you have to provide safe passage to someone on your property if they're not there to do ill will.
Right.
So if the electric man comes, or the oil man comes, or the plumber comes.
No, I agree. And we're always careful when people are coming in. She's usually pretty good.
Yeah, if she even has an inkling, and I don't know how, Sally, you feel about this, or Connie, you feel about this, but if she has an inkling, I will tell you that when my sons were young and I had multiple Irish setters in the house, it was like a free-for-all. When other kids came over, I would put my dogs in their kennels and lock them in down the basement. And I had beautiful stainless steel kennels that were, 12 feet high and 4 feet wide and 6 foot long. They're beautiful shoreline kennels. But I would put them in, and the parents would come and say, why are you doing that? I said, because I don't know your kid.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with my dogs.
Right.
My dogs know my kids, and my kids know my dogs. And I will say, and I don't know if anybody else on this call has ever said, but I will say that if my children tormented my dogs or stepped on them or did something and the dog turned around, I would say, you need to apologize to the dog. You hurt the dog. Right. Most people think dogs should never defend themselves. And I don't want my dog ever biting anyone at all. I'd like them to get up and leave. But if you kick my dog, and little kids do, because they just don't know, because their parents don't teach them, or they don't have pets, or maybe their parents let them kick dogs.
Or maybe they're afraid of the dog too.
Yeah. Yeah. So my dogs definitely are not necessarily trained to not respond. They might walk away. They likely would walk away. But if your dog gives you that moment of pause when somebody's coming in your home, I'd love to hear what Connie has to say and Sally has to say, but I would put her in a crate. I would never let her matriculate with anybody who's not a family member until you get her under the care of a behaviorist or a trainer, because that split second, especially in, certain states, can really create a havoc. I have a woman right now who has her dog, a German Shepherd, beautiful German Shepherd. They don't know if he bit the person or she fell and cut her leg. They can't really tell. But that dog is now in animal care and control and has been there for 9 months
Wow.
and may
Yep.
never get out.
Yeah. And California has similar laws, very strict laws about, it's one strike, you're out. You are classified as a vicious dog.
Yes.
If there is even any sign of aggression shown, let alone a dog bite, you have a documented history with animal care and control. And what I do, of course, Wheatons were bred to be multi-purpose.
They're terriers. They're terrorists.
And they're they're actually pretty mild. But
no, I know. I'm kidding.
I know. I call them Irish Terrierists all the time. But they were bred. One of their jobs, aside from herding stock, was to guard the family homestead. And they were the poor Irish peasant's dog. So they still have that very much in their DNA. They're wonderful watchdogs. I am thrilled about it. But if somebody is coming in, like a plumber or an electrician or somebody coming into work, my dogs are absolutely confined. And, excuse me. Sorry, robocall.
Yeah.
At any rate, the dogs are absolutely confined because you don't even know if they don't like the smell of the person coming in.
Yeah.
And of course, their olfactory senses are way more dramatically enhanced than ours by about 600 or 700 times. And so if they don't like the smell of a person, they're going to guard you. And mine are very protective of me. So, you just you have to know your dog. You have to know their DNA again. And you have to know their sensitivities. So I would definitely restrain your dog, Susan, if she's not reliable.
You want to keep her safe, right, Sally?
It's interesting, Susan, I had a Jack Russell Terrier and the septic man came and I put the terrier on a lead and I said, do not step within this circle because I don't know this dog that well. I've just gotten this dog. And of course, he took the shortcut. He walked right through the circle where the dog was on a lead. The dog bit him in the calf and drew blood. And I'm like, why did you do that? I have a whole yard. Right. Well, and he took a shortcut. And I said, just send me the medical bill. I'll pay for it. But it was like, people do really
stupid things.
Yeah, very silly things. And you have to protect your pet and yourself, the liability.
Right. No, I couldn't agree more. It makes me very nervous. And we usually do try to restrain her. We have one person who's sort of a friend who does a lot of work for us, though. And he does try to engage with the dog. He seems to really like the dog, but I'm always terrified that she could do something unexpected because she doesn't warm up to people. My other two Khotans, they were very you really bonded with them. They were almost like people. And this dog, she's more like autistic or something, because she just doesn't show affection unless she's coming up to get food or something, or she might give me some kisses now and then, but basically, I don't know. I don't understand.
They're all different. They're all different.
They're all individuals.
Yeah, they are. They're all different. I can tell you that Junie's different from Roxy, and Roxy's different with me than she is with Gordon and Sally. I mean, it's unbelievable. So we definitely have to know our dogs and know what they're like. And I'm definitely going to get you in touch with Kathy Madsen because I think she'd be the best person to find or to help you with the behavior because I just want to help, the MAAP plan is about addressing the needs of your pet. And let's give Maggie a little bit of a pass because the last year has been so totally difficult.
It has, I agree.
To socialize dogs, to train dogs. So she was a year old, maybe when everything started. And before everything started, she was only a year. So now she's 2. and she spent a whole year in confinement. And I have to tell you, I was walking tonight, and one of my walking buddies, he said, my dog gets, I thought your dogs were vicious. He said, when we first met at the beginning of COVID, because you pull them so close tight to you. And I said, that was COVID, and I've created a problem because Roxy now doesn't like anybody. Because if anybody walks by, Mom used to pull me close, and that means these people are bad. And so I have to make sure that I tell these people that they're bad, and she'll bark at them, or she'll, I really now, she was the friendliest dog in the entire universe. And now when she stays with Sally or when she's with me, I say, she really can't see another dog. She has like no quarter. There is no quarter. And she really doesn't like, especially little white dogs. So the Catan would definitely be not her friend. I have a dog across the street who my girlfriend Francesca has, one of my go-to people. And it's I want to say it's a Shih Tzu or something. No, it's not a Shih Tzu. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. It's some white thing. And maybe it's a Maltese. It might be a Maltese.
Yeah.
And it barks so much. And it sets Roxy off because if it barks, Roxy barks. And I said, Roxy, you know better. We cannot bark. We do not bark incessantly. And barking, I don't know. Connie, you probably have an aversion to barking as well. It's not appropriate. I mean, they can bark to alert me, but please don't bark just to hear yourself bark. It drives me nuts. So I teach my dogs commands. Quiet is my biggest word. I never say the S word, shut up, but I always say quiet. And I don't know, Sally, Athena gets to go get barking for a while too, and then you have to use the Q word.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, small things the size of a small rodent, a rabbit, a small dog, a groundhog, a cat, and then of course, if I have Roxy and Athena and one sees it, then the other one, and then they just like feed
off each other. Yep.
Exactly. Right.
So you're lucky, Susan, you don't have the feed off each other where I have to bark louder than you have to bark. Thank God you only got one.
Well, I had that with my other two dogs, and I always blamed it on one dog because he would start it and then the other one would just join in, so.
Well, I love being with you guys as always. It's come to 7, and I want to say thank you so much, Connie. I'm sending my love again to you. Sally, you were late this evening, but Connie just got Bama back, so it was a rough few days. So it's always difficult. And then she found out that Bama had the disease that she was afraid of. So I think you heard that piece. So the other babies are going to be part of a study. Casey and Patsy are going to be part of a study so that she can find out more about this disease and help other Wheaten Terriers, which is what all of us as preservationist breeders want to do. Yep, we all want to do that. So until next week, kiss your babies for me. This is Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law Mediation, and the MAAP Plan community. Thank you for being here. And until next time, make sure you write that plan down and put it on your fridge. Take care.